as it turns autumn, I think it's time for another smart home video / update. I moved into this new place a year ago, and this certainly isn't no new build. This is an 18th century house with walls that are, and I'm not even joking, about this thick. My longest drill bit won't stand a chance. Getting Wi-Fi everywhere has been a massive struggle, and I certainly don't have a massive centralized smart home rack that has cables running every which way to sensors all over the house. It's just not feasible. My system is basically all wireless. It's plug and play and pretty much off the shelf. And luckily enough for you guys, I'll put all the links to most of the things I talk about in today's video down there below that like button. Now, over the years, I've tried to simplify my smart home as much as possible because having loads of different things and loads of different apps just gets confusing. And again, what's the point? So next to my network rack, you can see a few of my smart home hubs. I'll get the worst one out the way first. We've got Philips Hue. I've had this for so long and it does work. To be fair, that's all I'm going to say about it. I know Hue's got its haters and its lovers, and that line isn't fine. Just below that, we've got the Aqara M2 hub. I've had this thing for, I think, about 2.5 years now, and this thing is awesome. We're going to be talking a lot about Aqara products today because I'm using them all over for a whole manner of different things. Now, the only other smart home hub that I've got up here is the hub for the Flick Twist. As you can see, this isn't installed properly, and that's because I'm not going to be running Flick Twist in my smart home. If you caught our video about it, yeah, it's really not the best. Now guys, really funny place to start a smart home tour, but I actually want to start us in the garden. So basically all over the back of the garden, I've got lights, and these are from a company called Govee. And then moving around to the front of the house, I've got these spotlights, which are basically wired in, and these have got Philips Hue GU10 bulbs in them. Now, one of the things I wanted to achieve with my smart home is have it save me money. Now, I like having my garden lit up at night, not only because I've got a dog, but for security too. But the problem is having lights on, especially at this time of the year from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. is going to cost a lot of energy. So I got to thinking, how can I automate this with my smart home gear? And the answer is motion sensors. That motion sensor at the end of the garden turns on the front of house lights when something is detected that turns down the drive. So should a pedestrian walk down or I turn down the driveway in my car, the lights of the house will turn on. And it's also saving me money because after I've driven past, the lights will turn off. This thing not only hoovers the floor and comes back and empties itself into a bigger dustbin, but up top it actually has 2 reservoirs for clean and dirty water. You fill this one with clean water, it goes ahead and mops the floor as well, and then puts all the dirty water back in this one. I honestly don't remember the last time I hoovered or mopped the floors, and they're all absolutely fine. Now this thing is really cool, and I thought it was going to be a bit of a gimmick, but it works really well. You basically fill it up with whatever pet food you want, and then you can set dispense in grams of how much you want it to put out. And I haven't fed my dog in about 2 weeks because this just does it on a schedule automatically, and that's awesome. All the lights in the kitchen can be controlled with this Aqara switch here, off and back on again. Now, the other way I'm controlling my lights in the kitchen is with this thing. This is absolutely awesome. This is the Aqara Presence Sensor FP2. It's honestly one of my favorite smart home gadgets I've tested in a while. Now, this smart home sensor really is next level. I've checked out some of Aqara's motion sensors and actually have quite a few already deployed around my house, which we'll get onto later. But this FP2 presence sensor, I think that's what it's called, is absolutely bonkers. Now, let me tell you why. With most motion sensors, as you turn into a room, they can detect there's motion there, and then if they don't detect any motion, they will turn off. As where with the presence sensor, it detects presence. So if you're still in the room, but you're not even moving, it still knows you're there, which is really, really cool. Furthermore, you can set up separate zones within the room, so it knows where you are within the room, whether you're sat at the island in the kitchen, you're in the middle of the kitchen, you're over at the sink, or you've just come in from either of the doors. Now, I actually had an Aqara motion sensor in the kitchen and a separate motion sensor in the utility for controlling the lights. With this FP2, it gets rid of both of these motion sensors because I can tell it an area which is near the utility door, so it knows if I go from the kitchen into the utility, it will go ahead and turn on the utility lights, completely rendering useless the motion sensor that I already had in the utility. And furthermore, all of these separate boxes that you create, these motion zones, appear in Apple's HomeKit, so you can trigger automations through there. And that's basically how I've got everything up and running. When I come in at night, it automatically knows that I've come through the door area, so it can turn on the lights for me, and when I leave the kitchen, it will turn the lights off. This is something that I wouldn't have left up to an old motion sensor because you could still be in the room and the lights would turn off. But with this, I have had literally no false triggers. And as soon as I leave the room, it knows, turns the lights off and saves me money. Then in the kitchen, as far as AV is concerned, audiovisual, I've got a 65-inch gallery LG TV on the wall. Flanking that left and right, we've got two KEF wall-mounted speakers for that OEM look. The way these speakers are set up in the kitchen is that I've got them hardwired back up to the loft to a Vessel audio streamer. Now this is an audio streamer that's network connected and has access to everything like Spotify Connect, Apple's AirPlay, Chromecast, literally absolutely everything. And it also has physical inputs as well, that the likes of analog and digital through optical. So I have this plugged into the TV. Therefore, if the Vessel streamer detects that there's audio coming from the TV, it'll automatically switch, and I've got the TV audio coming from the kitchen speakers. I've also got a whole load of other AirPlay 2 compatible speakers like Sonos Beam soundbars and Play Ones all over the house. All these are AirPlay compatible, so with AirPlay, I can group them all together and off we go. The house party's rocking. Now, as we move from the kitchen into the hallway and dining area, there's a few things at play in here. On the wall over here, I've got an Aqara switch, which clicking it controls all of the spotlights in the room. Now, the top button is disabled through the Aqara app, and that's because it controls that smart light over there. But I don't want that going off because it has a smart bulb in it that I want to be able to control the brightness of. So being able to disable that so it doesn't go off is perfect, and then I can just control the smart bulb itself. Controlling that smart bulb, as you can see on here, I've got a Philips Hue motion sensor that turns on this light here. It turns on this bloom down here. And if you go just round there, there's another bloom on the corner. And as you go upstairs to the second floor, there's also a few more motion sensors, this time from Aqara. Now moving up into my master bedroom, I don't really have too much at play here other than a bit of climate control and lighting. I like to keep my bedroom kind of tech-free because there's tech all over my house. In here, again, I've got Philips Hue lights, I've got a Philips Hue controller on the wall and a motion sensor. As well as that, I've also added shade control into my bedroom. Now, this isn't something I thought I was ever going to add to this house after having the Lutron system in my last place, which was really, really expensive. My new house came with just normal dumb blinds. Turns out Aqara make a roller shade driver, which I've installed here, and again, works really, really well. It connects to the Aqara hub, gives you control through the Aqara app, and it ties in with HomeKit so I can use my voice to set the percentage of shade coming through my shades, open, close them, yada, yada, yada. It works really well and is a fairly inexpensive way to make your dumb blinds pretty smart. Moving over from the house to the studio, which is where we are now, I've got a few subtle automations at play in here to make my life just that little bit easier and try to save me a little bit of money. So, starting at my desk. The entire thing is connected through to one plug socket, which again I have attached to a Philips Hue smart plug so it appears in my Apple HomeKit. And on the desktop, I can show you here, I have this little Aqara cube, which on a few sides you can see I have labeled because I forget what this thing does. Now, if you don't know what this thing does, it's awesome. It's a cube, it connects to the Aqara gateway, either the M2 hub or the M3 camera. Basically, you put this down on any side and something can happen of your choosing. So as you can see, on this side I have desk on and this side I have desk off. So if I put this cube down on desk off, it turns off my desk and my speakers, literally everything. Now for the hub in the studio, I have this little cat camera in the corner. This again is from Aqara. It's not called the cat camera. It's the M3 camera hub, I believe. And that then ties into all of these little devices like this and connects these to HomeKit. The hub also has a camera built in so I can monitor in the room. And the most important part, it has an IR blaster. And the way I use that in here is for these speakers and for the climate. So as I mentioned with the cube, when I turn the desk on by placing the cube down, everything on the desk comes to life, but my speakers don't power up because they require you to turn them on via the on switch or to turn them on via a remote. Now, because the M3 hub has an IR blaster built into it, it can learn the remote codes, and when I put the cube down on desk on, it turns on the desk and sends an IR request over to the speakers to power those on too. So to get up and running, all I've got to do is flick that cube, and as you can see, everything comes to life. On side 4 and side 3 of this cube, I have it controlling my air conditioning. Now the aircon unit in here is literally from about 2000. It's over 20 years old. So how is this being controlled by this cube? Again, I'm making use of the IR here. The M3 hub has learned the IR codes from the remote controller for the aircon, and I've tied them to turn the aircon on and to turn the aircon off. So now my old school AC in this room is controlled by this 21st century cube. It really is kind of a mix of the present and the past, and I really kind of like that. I think the devices like the M2 and the M3 hub from Aqara that have the ability to control IR devices really are slept on, because if I left the aircon unit on in this room all day, it would cost me through the roof. But with some clever automations, I can set it so that if I turn the aircon on via the cube, it will only stay on for an hour or my specified time and then turn itself off. That way, if I turn on the AC and leave this room in a rush forgetting to turn off the unit, I don't even need to worry about it because I know in an hour, it'll turn itself off anyway via the IR command from the M3 hub. So there you guys have it. That's my smart home tour for 2023, covering my climate through aircon control and blinds, my lighting, my audio equipment, feeding my dog, and everything else and in between. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll put all the links down there in the description for you guys. And if you've got any comments, let me know down there too. Anyway, guys, my name's been Alex. This has been TechFlow, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.